Hey everybody, I'm JD. Welcome to JD1533 in the workshop here, part 3 of King Friday. Tonight we're going to start tearing it down. What we do is overnight, I took out this oil drain plug, even though the oil's been drained out, just to see what would happen overnight. And we got a few drops out. I want to set the camera angle up so that it looks better if we're disassembling this and not necessarily me in the shot. So we'll get that set up and we'll get going. All right, so if you'll notice, well, I put the plug back in, but it's one of these oil drain holes, and overnight we got about that much oil. So when we take this apart, basically I've got a little box for smaller parts. We've got some Chinese soup containers for little hardware and all that, and then we've got a bigger box for bigger things. And ideally we'll get it into plastic totes, but for now we'll just put the parts in there. So I'm going to get it situated and we'll get right to it. All right, I don't know how good or bad that's lined up. We've got some tools lined up, we've got things situated. Here's something that's not required, but I like to take a couple magnets and put them in my small parts bins. Most of this stuff is steel, this hardware, even though it's going to be okay in there, that'll keep it from getting away. So throw a magnet in each one of those. And a lot of this stuff was already loosened up in the past. Well, one of the things I'm going to do is take this spark plug out. They've got a Champion CJB spark plug. It's pretty stubby. So that's what it had in it. So we'll put that in the small parts bin and we'll get going on this. I might walk out of frame to get some sockets I prepared. It's a little tight yet, so try to stay out of your way. Put that in. That's stuck to the magnet. What else? We have another, and this is actually for anybody's information. I think I mentioned it a few years ago. We started. This is a 7/16, and there's a few 7/16 nuts to get this sheet metal off the front, or recoil, air shroud, all that. I think there's another one on here. Yep, there it is. Here she is. This is kind of finger tight, so I'll just take it off like that. I'm kind of leaving the engine in this tray for now, so it's easy to move around. If anything drips off, it won't go into the wood here. And as you know, we've had this off before, but now it's off again. I'm going to put it in the big parts bin. Sit that up there. And there we go. If anybody remembers that. Got our coil to remove. We've got our flywheel to remove. I'd kind of like to go and get the rest of this tin off. Next, maybe move on to the flywheel later. Might not be graceful, but I'm a little tired. I leave for work around 6 a.m. and get home around 8 p.m. So that's the schedule I'm on. So trying to get something done before the weekend on this project. And that's how it goes. All right, head bolt. This head bolt has some kind of a bracket on the top. So for now, we'll keep that together. Try to stay out of his way. A lot of people use an impact wrench for this, and you can do that, but I like to feel the tension of the bolts, which ones are loose, which ones are tighter, maybe if they have a different sound. Tell me if the engine's been, or a hint anyway, a clue if it's been overheated. Sometimes the bolts can tell a little story of their own. That one's a little looser. All right. This one feels kind of goopy on the threads. Here's some more sheet metal. I'll put that in the, I'm going to put it with the big parts. And I'm going to continue on with the head, try to remove that. Okay. That was fairly tight, so that's been squeezed on there tight for quite a while. It's actually a good sign. All right, here we go. Let's try this one. Not as tight, but certainly tight enough to hold down that gasket. That's pretty loose. That crack loose real easy. No big deal. We're going to rebuild the whole thing. I could time lapse this, but a lot of people like to see the actual real time since we're not in a hurry. There's a lot of engine rebuilds where they time lapse it and do a complete rebuild in under 10 minutes, but we're going to take our time. All right, well, it's the first time I've seen under the head, and we have some carbon, but nothing crazy. Matter of fact, the head gasket looks good from what I can see, and it lifts right off, and it is good. I'd actually reuse this. I'm not going to lie, I'd actually reuse that. So I think I'm going to put that in the small parts box. I think the head's going to go in the big parts box for now. Looks pretty good. Put this off to the side. And I'm just going to try to turn this by hand and look at these valves. Make sure they're moving freely. Take a look in this bore. I don't have my flashlight, but I can see there's no scoring. You'll get a better look later, but just initially it looks pretty good. Exhaust valve up and down. Intake valve up and down. All right, so the valves aren't stuck. That's good. All right, well, let's continue with getting some of this sheet metal off. That's a little bigger. That's loose. Yeah, you kind of get this in real time, so you get something smaller for that. Take a guess. Yeah, that's the right size on that. Don't mind me, I'm sneaking behind the camera. One of the things I stepped up to is lapel mic, so I can do that and keep the narration better. So if you can see, there's a small hex back here. All right, take that off, put it there. Put this in the big bin. And all right, making a little progress. I had this loose before, so it's probably just finger tight, this muffler. So let's rip this off. 3 years ago, I don't remember exactly what I did or didn't do, but we'll put that. Well, I'm just going to put the whole thing in the big parts box with the bolts for now. And what can we move on to? I'm thinking, hang tight. Yeah, a little big. So I'm thinking pop this coil off while we're here. I'm trying to take my time and enjoy the project, but not take too long. Here on my work night. That's one, that's two. The magnet feels relatively strong. We've got this wire here hanging on. Of course, we have a couple spacers, and we'll keep those here. I'm just going to take a look around what we got. All right. All right, so what I want to do so I don't lose these spacers and bolts right now is I'm just going to put them back in. We'll get them, but just for now, put them back in there. Like so. Take a little break. The next thing I want to do is take off this grass screen or shield, so we can get at this starter clutch and take that off before we take the flywheel off. But I thought I want to point something out that's kind of neat before we continue. I'm going to spin the flywheel by hand just to show that this gear reduction works. And it works pretty freely. There's no big resistance. So I think the innards of this are pretty good. So before we take everything apart, I wanted to show that off, but try to keep these in frame. Let me try to turn this better. All right. I'm going to come, it's actually a 1/4 inch nut driver. Let's take this off. Pretty easy to remember where those go. We'll take the screen off. It's in great shape, so that's good. That's a plus. And this rope pull, starter clutch, whatever you want to call it, would be the next thing to take off. All right. So clearly, these are small parts. The bolts in there. They're going to go in the small parts bin. There's our starter clutch. We're going to have to get in there and knock that out. So that's what's up next. Also, to get the flywheel off, I forgot to mention, there's a tool. Briggs and Stratton has a tool. Different companies have a tool, and it basically straddles the fins. And it kind of is like the club. I don't know if you remember the club on the old 1980s, 1990s. Put it on your steering wheel. No one can steal your car. But it kind of sits on the fins and locks down so you can knock loose the flywheel nut. If you don't have that, we're going to show you what to do. All right, being that the video is getting a little bit long at this point, I think we're going to continue in a new episode next time. And like I said before, if you don't have that special tool to provide the resistance to take off the flywheel nut, we'll show you what to do next time. We'll start off with that. All right.